I have commanded the Kelvasi Redoubt for 11 years, and in all that time, I never once mistyped a coordinate string. I want that understood before I tell you the rest, because what happened afterward has a way of making a careful officer sound like a fool, and I was not a fool. I was tired, and the wall was coming down, and I had 4 minutes to get a signal out before the relay mast went with it. The Cinder host had been at the outer curtain for 6 days by then. They do not storm a position the way old records say raiders once did. They lean on it, patient and total, grinding the stone down a hand's width at a time until the width becomes a gap and the gap becomes a door. By the 6th day, the eastern bastion had a door in it. I had 81 soldiers left who could still stand a watch, a reserve fleet 3 days out at Waypoint Sable that did not yet know we needed them today instead of in 3 days, and a communications officer named Perrin Ash, bleeding from a shrapnel wound in her scalp, while she tried to raise that fleet on a mast that had already taken 2 hits. "Rekey it," I told her. "Full override, garrison priority, direct to the 3rd column at Sable." She keyed it. Her hand was not steady. I did not blame her for that. I have never once, in 11 years, been steady while doing arithmetic under fire, and coordinate strings are arithmetic. She read the string back to me over the noise of the bastion falling, and I confirmed it, and in the confirming, I heard myself say 2 digits that were not the 2 digits on the plotting slate in front of me. I did not know it then. I would not know it for 11 more days. At the time, all I knew was that the string went out, the mast took a 3rd hit, and died mid-transmission, and we went back to holding a door that no longer had a wall around it. I am telling you this part slowly, because it is the only part of the story where I still had any control over anything. The reserve fleet at Sable never got the message. What got the message, what the 2 garbled digits actually pointed the beacon toward, out past the edge of our own charts, into a stretch of space we had never surveyed and had no reason to, was an Earth patrol wing holding a routine transit line 11 light hours off our flank. I did not know Earth patrolled that corridor. I do not think anyone in the Corvean chain of command knew it, or if they did, no one had thought to mention it to a garrison commander with a wall problem. The corridor was not ours, was not theirs by any treaty I had ever read, was simply a stretch of dark that a human patrol wing happened to be sitting in when a Corvean distress string, addressed to nobody they had ever heard of, landed on their board. I learned afterward what their comms officer told the story as a garbled string, priority markers she recognized from nothing on file, a location that put whoever sent it in the middle of getting overrun. She said she almost logged it as drift and moved on. She did not. Her wing commander, a woman named Rain, I would meet her 3 hours later on the Redoubt's own scorched apron, read the same string, and made a decision I still do not fully understand the shape of, because nothing in it required her to make it. Her patrol was 4 ships. Her orders did not mention us. Her charts did not have Kelvasi on them at all. She came anyway. I was on the bastion when the sky changed. I want to be honest about what that looked like from the ground, because it did not look like rescue. It looked like 4 more shapes joining a fight that already had too many shapes in it. Engine flare cutting low over the curtain wall. Weapons fire opening up on Cinder host positions from an angle nothing in our order of battle accounted for. For a full minute, I assumed we were about to be finished by someone else's mistake, that a third party had wandered into our siege and would burn us along with everything else. Then the fire pattern resolved, and I understood it was aimed entirely at the host, and that it was very, very good. It did not save the Eastern Bastion. I want to be clear about that too, because I have heard this kind of story told with a cleaner ending than the one I actually have. We lost the Bastion 9 minutes after the patrol arrived. We lost 11 more soldiers in that 9 minutes. Good ones. 2 of them under my direct command for the whole 11 years I have held this post. What the patrol did was buy the rest of the Redoubt the 6 hours it needed for the actual reserve fleet, the one we had meant to call, to finally arrive from Sable, alerted not by my garbled string, but by the sensor bloom of a battle that should not have been happening in that sector at all. By the time the 3rd column dropped in system, 3 of the 4 patrol ships were still flying. The 4th was not. I do not know all of the names of the crew we lost with it. I have since made it my business to learn them. Between the loss of the Bastion and the arrival of the 3rd column, there were 6 hours in which the Redoubt held on nothing but the patrol's cover fire and whatever discipline my remaining 81 soldiers had left in them. I spent most of it on a command channel with a woman I had never spoken to before, coordinating fields of fire in a shorthand that should not have worked between two forces, with no shared doctrine and no shared language protocols beyond a translation lattice, bolted together in the first 10 minutes of contact. It worked anyway. She held the northern approach without being asked to hold it, because she had looked at our line and seen where it would break next before I had finished saying so myself. I did not have time, in those 6 hours, to wonder why a stranger was spending her ship's plating to keep a wall standing that was not her wall. I had time for that later, on the apron, when the fighting finally left a pause long enough to hold a conversation in. Captain Rain stood there in a suit still venting atmosphere from a hull breach and told me, before I had asked a single question, that they had not received clearance to be there and did not require any to leave. I told her we had not sent for her. She looked at me the way a person looks at a fact they already suspected and had simply been waiting to hear confirmed. "We know," she said. "We ran the string twice before we came. It wasn't addressed to us. Wasn't addressed to anybody we could find." She paused, and there was nothing in her face I would call triumph, and nothing I would call regret, only the flat accounting of someone totting up a bill they intended to pay regardless of whose name was on it. "Close enough," she said, and that was all the explanation she offered, then or since. It took 11 days, once the wall was rebuilt enough to think in, for my communications officer and I to sit down with the transmission logs and find the 2 digits. They were mine. I had said them clearly, under fire, with total confidence, and they were wrong. And the string I had actually sent had never once pointed at Sable at all. It had pointed at a stretch of empty transit corridor, 11 light hours away, and by every rule of distance and probability, it should have found nothing there. It found a patrol wing that had no obligation to us, no treaty with us, no record of us in any archive I have since been able to locate on their side either. I have run garrisons for a long time. I have filed a great many reports in that time, and most of them I do not remember writing. I remember writing this one. I wrote that the Kelvasi redoubt was relieved by a friendly force responding to a misdirected distress signal, and that the force in question bore no obligation, contractual or otherwise, to answer it, and answered regardless, and paid for the answering. I wrote that I did not know how to file the debt this created, because there was no ledger column in our system for help that arrived by accident and stayed on purpose. I still do not know how to file it. I have simply decided to stop trying, and to remember instead the 4 ships and the one that did not fly home, and the flat, unbothered way Rain said the only 2 words she ever offered me by way of explanation. I misdialed my own reserve by 2 digits under fire, and something answered that string anyway, and I have never once heard it framed as a mistake by anyone who was there. Only by me, and only in the reports nobody but me will ever read twice.